Generally, if I don't appear on the monitor and that light doesn't go on, we're not
Live
filming.
on set, please.
Hey, are you a pet lover? Are you a writer? Did you ever consider putting the two of them together? Writing a book about your pet? Haha, well, our guest today did exactly that. My name is Vin Dacquino. Our guest today is Joni Mercado and Phoebe. Joni, let's talk writing and Phoebe. Glad to have you both here. Joni, you've written a wonderful book called Kitty Cat. You Can't Have That. Tell me a little bit about who you are, Joni.
Well, I live in Putnam Valley with my husband, and we've been married almost 50 years.
Wow, that's an achievement right there.
Yeah, I'll say it is. It's quite a milestone.
Yes.
When we first met, we met in July, and we got married in August.
Wow, love it. Almost first sight.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So it worked out.
Yeah, I guess so.
And I have 3 children and 4 grandchildren.
Wow.
My children love me to read stories to them. When they were little, I used to read to them, and now I read to my grandchildren.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and in 1990, I was diagnosed with MS.
Wow.
And I decided that when I became on full-time disability, I was going to write some poetry. So I began writing lots of poetry, and I got involved in advocating for the environment, for human rights, and responsible health care. And then as I was writing my poems and limericks, I began to write one about my cat, and it was a long one. It turned out to be a long poem, so I thought, well, this would make a nice book.
Yeah.
So
And it did.
It did. It turned out to be very, very successful. The artist that illustrated the book is a renowned Filipino, and he had never illustrated a children's book before.
That's Mel Veracruz.
Mel Veracruz, yes. And this is the first time he illustrated a children's book, and I thought he did a phenomenal job. The colors are brilliant, and the drawings are just lovely.
I've never seen illustrations so vividly colorful in my life. They're absolutely beautiful.
I know. I was astounded when I saw the copies.
Yeah,
And I
yeah, beautiful job.
Yes.
So you wrote a poem about your cat.
Yes.
And decided that that poem was long enough to illustrate into a book.
Yes.
Now, what about your other poems? What were they about?
Well, I wrote a variety of humorous and heartfelt poetry, and some limericks. I can tell you one limerick if you like. It's,
Okay, go for it.
a girl in a one-legged race at the starting line fell on her face. As she got up, she farted just as the race started, which propelled her right into first place.
Well, that certainly is a
So
limerick.
that's just a taste of what I write.
Yeah. So you do add humor to your work.
Yes, I do. And the heartfelt poetry I wrote for a lot of people that were in a situation similar to mine. And I thought that that would enlighten them and make them feel good, because you know, I would call people that were housebound, and we would share our stories. And by the time they got through talking with me, they said they felt a whole lot better, that I inspired them, and I'm
So
uplifting.
Writing is a sort of therapy for you?
It just It's a therapy, and I was amazed at how the words just came out of thin air.
Yeah. I mean, there's some people out there who have never attempted poetry. And I just can't encourage them enough to do that because it does so much for your head.
Yes.
You know, poetry is push-ups to the mind. And it just keeps you active. It keeps your mind flowing.
Yes, it does.
Well, you're going to give us a treat today. You're going to read this for us.
Oh, yes.
I can't wait to hear it. So what we're going to do is, how about you read it, and I will hold up the illustrations for the audience to give them an opportunity to see that.
All right.
So why don't we start out with the cover, Kitty Cat, You Can't Have That, which is a bright illustration right off. And then let's go right to the first pages of your book.
Okay.
So,
the story begins like this, and this is based on a true story about my cat.
okay.
My kitty cat sat by the window. She was feasting her eyes on a bird and making a beautiful trill sound, the most heavenly I'd ever heard. She attempted to get the attention of this baby bird that was nearby, where Mother Bird started her lessons demonstrating on how it would fly. It stretched its wings open in earnest as it teetered so high above ground. The mother observed it real closely, very quietly, without a sound. The fledgling was fluffing its feathers, then flit from one branch to the next. It was cautioned to be very careful. Staying close to its mother was best. Then Kitty rushed out of the front door, left open that warm summer day, for this kitty just loved to go outdoors, where she would practice stalking her prey. 'Twas the baby bird Kitty was after, as she quietly crept through the grass. Lying low to the ground, she was hidden, but the mother bird spotted her fast. She had swiftly swooped down at the kitty and was pecking the cat on her back, while repeatedly doing the same thing to prevent a potential attack. But the fledgling was losing its balance and was starting to fall from its branch. Both the mother bird and hungry kitty at the same time had captured a glance. Then the cat began racing towards it, while the fledgling tried hard not to fall. Suddenly baby bird caught its balance, and it didn't fall after all. It discovered it finally could fly, very much to its mother's delight, for it learned what its mother had taught it and had actually saved its own life. This kitty was very disgruntled at not having a bird for a bite. She lost out on that meal, but soon found one in her dish waiting for her that night. The moral this story is teaching is to stay close and don't wander away. Don't start talking with strangers you don't know, or you could wind up being their prey. And that's
Well,
the
very
conclusion.
nice. Very nice. This is indeed a delightful story.
Thank you.
I can absolutely see children enjoying this, getting a little lesson out of this.
Yes.
So, tell me, your other poems, are they headed for bookdom?
I'm hoping so. I started printing a lot of the poems that I found on my computer, and I've got at least 50 or more. So I thought that with some illustration and putting the poems together, some are heartfelt, some are humorous, some are limericks, some are for children, and then I would categorize them and then put them together and see about how I can get them published.
So instead of one long poem, you're going to do a collection
That's
of...
correct.
Oh, very good. Now, are they all about animals?
No, they're not. They're about just life in general. There's choices is one, perspective is another, children, the ladybug and the love bug is another one, which is a nice tale, and one about the wings of in flight, and at the end, you find out that the wings move so fast, and you begin to see that it is a hummingbird.
Oh, wow.
And it's very delightful. So I wrote a lot of those because I wanted to, also I wrote about my pets. I had a golden retriever who was very loving and happy and loved people. And it's a very, the dog eventually grew old and passed away. And I wanted to write this book as a dedication.
Oh, that's nice.
And it turned out to be a beautiful poem, very heartfelt, and I was very proud of my
Now, I have to
poem
ask you
when it was
this.
done.
Are your pets all as well behaved as Phoebe?
Oh, Phoebe is a gem.
Phoebe.
Phoebe.
Hey.
She is
I
a
wish my
gem.
grandchildren were as well behaved as you.
I call her Phoebe the freebie because we got her from a friend who got a job on a cruise ship, and she couldn't keep her because
Oh,
she'd be
wow.
traveling a lot. And when she gave her to us to take care of, she said, "Oh, you do such a good job. You can have her."
Oh, my
She's-
goodness.
She's 7.5.
She
and
is
she's
adorable.
a real princess and an angel,
Yeah.
and a very great comfort to me.
I haven't heard her bark or whine
No.
yet. We've
Only
been
on
together now
cue.
a couple hours
On
today.
cue.
Oh, cute. There you
Yeah.
go. Amazing. So will there be a Phoebe, you can't do that? Or
I was thinking of a sequel on Kitty Cat,
Oh.
and it has to do with a magical horse.
Oh, interesting.
So that would be my next endeavor.
Wow. Wow. Now, do you still have your illustrator? Is Mel
Yes.
Veracruz still available?
Yes, he is, and available to do the next one.
Oh, excellent. Good. So he's getting ready. Now, tell me about your writing process. When do you write? Where do you write?
Well, I sit at my computer a lot because, as I
Is
said,
that
I
a
have
laptop?
MS. It's a desktop.
Okay.
I have a laptop, and I also have an iPad. But I do my writing on the desktop. It's much easier, and the words just come so easily to me.
Is there a particular time of day that you prefer writing?
Usually in the daytime,
Oh, interesting. I'm
and
just the
sometimes
opposite.
in the middle of the night. I'll wake up,
Yep.
and the lyrics will come to me, and I'll write them down, and then the next morning, otherwise I'll forget, because that's what happens.
Now, you just said lyrics.
Yes.
Now, do you write music as well?
No, I write, but I'm
The
thinking
lyrics
of it.
for music.
I'm
Yep.
thinking of it.
Oh.
But that's
good idea.
ahead. That's somewhere in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah.
But the reason I want to write more children's books is because I think that in this busy day and age when parents are working and so occupied with so much to do, that they don't really have that much time to sit down with their children. And I think that it's so important to sit down with a young child and read to them. And they look at the pictures, and before you know it, they want to tell us their own story. So they look at the pictures, turn the pages, and make up their own.
Now, what about your own children and grandchildren?
Yes.
Now, you read to them, and do they become critics? I mean, have you made changes because something they've said?
They ask questions. I don't
Good.
make changes, but there are some words in here that need to be defined because this book is really, I think, for ages 3 to 8.
Okay.
And so the younger ones, you would have to explain some of the words.
Right.
And that's a good thing because this is interaction between the parent and the child or the relative. And it's so colorful.
Oh,
that
so colorful.
I
I'm
am so
telling you,
pleased.
it's beautiful.
Yes, yes. And this is a self-published book. And it was a difficult process because it's the first time I've ever written a children's
Yeah.
book. And but once we got through with it, I was challenged to do another one.
Now, you've done book signings.
Yes.
I saw you recently at Barnes & Noble.
That's correct.
So you actually do go to bookstores and libraries. You'll be part of the Meet the Writers at the Manpack Library
Right.
on coming up soon. So how do you feel about public appearances? Are you getting used to that? Is that something that you enjoy doing, or is it something you dread doing?
Well, at first I thought I might be nervous, and once I sat here, I felt very comfortable.
Ah, good.
And when I went to Barnes & Noble to do the book signing, I invited some friends, and they came and they saw the books, and they were amazed at how lovely and how brilliant the colors were, and the illustrations were so
yeah.
beautiful. So I sold a few of them.
Yeah, see,
And
that's, yeah.
I'm going to do more.
So you do have to get out, and
Yes.
you do have to spread the word.
Right.
And that's the difficult part of self-publishing. Sometimes it's very difficult to get that book out into a huge public. So it takes a little bit of work when you self-publish. But the product is gorgeous. It doesn't look any different from any traditional published book. Okay, so now, where do you go from here? Are you going to continue doing children's books?
Yes.
Or will you lean a little bit to the adult side? You talked earlier about MS and the experience of MS.
Yes.
Are you going to try to capture that in book?
I might do that as well, yes. I'm thinking seriously about that. But I would like to take one step at a time. So
That's
my
exactly
sequel is
right.
in, I'm thinking about that one
Yep.
with the magical horse. And it has a nice little twist to it.
Oh,
In
good.
fact, most of my poems are humorous, which means that at the end there's a little twist, something you don't expect.
Right, right.
And also, I'm planning to go maybe to some of the schools,
Good
the
idea.
grade schools, to introduce the book.
And libraries.
And the library.
Libraries are often looking for authors to come and talk.
Oh, I plan on doing that.
Good. That's a
Yes.
good idea.
Have a children's session and read to them.
Now, these books are available in libraries. Did you get them into our local libraries yet?
Not yet. That's the
takes
next
time.
step. This is pretty new.
Yep.
And it's on Amazon.
How long has Kitty Cat been out?
A year.
Yeah, just about. And that in book world is not very long.
No.
It takes a while to get that word out.
Yes.
I found that with my books. I mean, books I've written 10 years ago are just starting to get into some people's hands. It's a tough battle. Okay, and so you write during the day. Do you have like a set time? Like, you write between 1 and 3. Some writers are like amazing when it comes to that. It's like, oh no, it's 1 o'clock. I should be writing.
No,
it's like a
because
soap opera.
I'm home. My time is free.
Ah, that's
So whenever I'm inspired by something, I'll sit down and I'll write. I'll handwrite the lyrics, or I can even sit at the computer, and sometimes it's easier that way. The words flow more
Right,
easily, because, so
good. When you handwrite, do you handwrite into a notebook, separate sheets of paper?
both.
Both.
Yes.
I try to encourage writers to keep a journal. In fact, I push those hardcover nothing books. Do you know what those are?
No.
They have books called nothing books or anything books. They're hardcover. You open them, blank pages.
Right. I've seen them.
And I've written maybe 7 or 8 of them, with filling them from cover to cover. And I also use them as therapy sometimes. I write in these books to clarify my thoughts and to try to just see what I'm thinking.
Right.
And one of the things I recommend to poets is that you stay on a theme and you write a poem, and then you write that same poem or the same idea for that poem again and again and again and again. And I have maybe 7, 8 poems about the exact same subject. Sometimes the first one is the best. Sometimes the last one is the best. But it is a writing exercise. And I just can't say enough about poetry being a therapy and about helping you to get in there and think. And by doing that, your books become therapy for your readers.
Yes.
And children have an opportunity to see and think about some of the themes that you're presenting for them. Okay, so let's talk again then about the very next project. What is the very next project? Have you already started? I mean, do you have like, okay, this is my next project, and then this is going to be after that, and this is going to be after that, or do you just let it flow?
Well, in a way I let it flow sometimes, but I'm also thinking of two things at the same time. One being the sequel to this book, and another a collection of my poems. And they are in different categories. Some are for children,
Right.
some are heartfelt, some are humorous, some are
Right.
limericks. So,
About how
I'll be
many poems
working
would
on
be in
them.
this collection?
oh, probably 50 to 60.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. So, will you combine? This interests me because poets, writers have a style, and they have a way of presenting work. And if I'm hearing you right, are you going to be mixing children's books with, the children's works with the adult works, or they'll be in a separate adult collection?
Well, I'm thinking they probably have to be separate.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yes, yes.
Give me an idea of the themes for the adult book.
Well, mostly about life in general. I'm interested in psychology,
Okay.
so I write about people and human feelings and the things that they say and do, and having a certain perspective, sort of mindfulness.
Tell
just-
me more about that.
Well, in
What is
terms
life?
of
I'm doing a brand new book now. I'm working on totally new. It's called Emails to a Paranormal. And it's a story of a young boy, a 17-year-old, who loses his father on Halloween night. And he and his father had a special gift. And they could speak to people who have yet to cross over. And once his father is taken away from him, he loses the very person he had to discuss this afterlife. And he's lost. So he reaches out to this paranormal. Well, this book was my way of explaining what I believe is the afterlife, or at least a part of the afterlife. And it's my vehicle for exploring my own feelings and thoughts and beliefs. So tell me about your feelings, thoughts, and beliefs. When people walk away from Joni Mercado's adult poetry, what do you want them to walk away with?
a lesson.
What lesson?
Well, there are negative and positive sides to people
Yep, and to life.
and to life, and having a perspective on how to go about thinking within and without and out, to be more mindful of how you are as a person,
Yeah.
how you can change to have a different mindset.
So, is your philosophy to live day by day, and just make the best of every day?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
me
it
too.
is.
You don't know what tomorrow is going to be, but you do have today, and it's here.
Right.
And so many people are so focused on tomorrow that they're wasting today.
Right.
And you have to be so careful of doing that. Tell me about the patterns of your poetry. Do all of your poems rhyme? Do they not rhyme?
No, most of them do, but I have some that are prose,
Ah,
and I never knew about prose
Ah.
until the MS Society had an online writing group, and we shared poems.
Oh,
and
that's great.
she would assign you to do a certain type of poem.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I did a prose poem,
Wow.
and I did a free-flowing one about nature, and the words flow together because they are similar in sound, and it creates a picture.
Yeah, so many people think a poem is a poem. And what I do is I try to get them to think about music, and you think of the different artists and the different kinds of music. Frank Sinatra's music and rap music are a whole long way apart from each other. And when we think of all the other artists and all the other kinds of music, music isn't just music, and poetry isn't just poetry. There's short poems and long poems and just funny poems and sad poems, and so many different ways to express yourself through poetry. So are your poems a variety of all those different things, or is there a certain kind of poetry that you would say, this is my kind of poetry?
I have a style.
A
and
style, good.
It's layman's wording. You can understand it. A child could even understand the way I write. But it teaches a lesson, a life lesson. And I had written one which I let you read called The Reign, not R-E-I-G-N,
yes,
but
yes.
R-A-I-N, The Reign of Count Stromberg. And he's a man who would export umbrellas to wherever it would rain. And one day in his kingdom, it never rained again. It rained cool cash that fell to the ground, and he turned his umbrellas upside down to catch all the cash. But as it turns out, in the long run, he realizes that he needs rain because it has life, it needs to sustain life. So this was a lesson to be learned from.
Right.
You can catch all the money in the world in your umbrellas, but you need water to live.
Well, talking about rain, R-E-I-G-N, I have now decided that the reigning princess of all dogs is Phoebe. Phoebe is the most well-behaved dog I've ever seen. Thank you for bringing her, and certainly thank you for coming here today.
Oh,
It has been an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Vinny.
You're promoting poetry. You're promoting pets
Oh, we
and
love
writing about
animals.
pets. And Phoebe, you are an angel.
She really is.
I can't thank you enough for being here with us today. I can't thank you enough for being here with us today. It has been a pleasure to have you here. Joni, keep on writing. Joni Mercado, you can have that.
Yes.
Keep writing, keep spreading the word, and you keep tuning in. Thank you for being with us here today on Let's Talk Writing.
Thank you so much for
pleasure.
having me on your show, Vinny.
Thank you, and it's been a pleasure to have you here. When you finish your other books, be sure to bring them right here to us. Make sure we get to see them, and we'll make sure we have you on again.